Hey guys, how you all doing? You're watching VaulSC as always. Today we're going to talk about the Tabletop Simulator program, which you can get on Steam, and about playing infiNity the game on the TTS. So this is something which has been around for a little while now, and a number of people have mentioned it on the infiNity forums and on Facebook and have approached me directly about trying it out, and I've always been reluctant to have a look into it just because this is not something that can ever substitute actually playing in person in tabletop. The hobby is really all about, painting your models, being there with another human being, having an actual tactile environment, rolling dice. All that stuff feels good and will always continue to be, a thing. It can never be replaced by a computer game. However, Tabletop Simulator is interesting. It is fun, and it is there. And I guess one of the advantages of it is that you can play against people who are in other countries. You can play against people, from home without having to set up your models and go somewhere. So it can be convenient for people who don't really find it convenient to actually go to a place to play. It also gives you a chance to, try out different armies and lists and on different tables that you wouldn't otherwise be able to do. So there is that. And for me personally, one reason why I finally decided to give it a go is that it gives me an opportunity to vary the content that I put on YouTube, and also interact and potentially play with people who can't play with me in my country. And thirdly, it's an opportunity to grow my Twitch channel. I'll talk in a moment about how you can sort of tune in and participate and sort of hang out with me in my games on Twitch. So, Tabletop Simulator, how do you get it running? So, first of all, you need Steam. So, this is Steam here. Obviously, if you guys are not too sure what Steam is, go look that up. Obviously, you can see my games here, but what you want to do is buy the Tabletop Simulator. It does cost money, but I think it's less than $20. I paid less than $20 for it anyway. And once you've done that, the Tabletop Simulator itself is able to simulate a lot of different games, board games, but you've got to get the infiNity the game plug-in for it. So I think you start by clicking on Steam Workshop, and then you can just do a tabletop. Oh, hang on, let me just minimize my little face here. So we're in the Tabletop Simulator area, the workshop, and you maybe just type in infiNity and scroll down a bit, and there it is, Corvus Belli's infiNity, and you just subscribe to that, install that, and you're away. What you want to do then is to go to, obviously, your games and run your game. And I'm in it at the moment. I'm just going to go back to the main menu so you can see where you start out. Alright, here we go. So we're in Tabletop Simulator at the moment. Obviously, you can join somebody else's game, or you can create your own game. So if I click Create, I'm going to go Multiplayer. You put in your server name, password. My one is VaulSC, and password is infiNity. And I'm going to create that server. And when you come down to the, obviously you can create servers for other classic games, but you want to come down to Workshop where it says Corvus Belli infiNity. I've got my save games down here, but if I click on this one, it's going to load it up, and it's going to put me into an environment where you can get going. Now, during this video, I'm going to explain how it works and how to get into it, and what I've learned so far from my 1 hour of play so far. I'm new to it as well. Before I get too much further forward into the explanation of how this is going to work and how that goes, I just want to talk about participation for a bit, and that is to do with Discord. So here's Discord here. Again, if you're not too sure what Discord is, look that shit up. It's going to be on Google. But Discord is a way of chatting with certain communities and getting involved. So if you click on the link in the video description of this YouTube video, you'll see a link to my Discord. I've only just set this up. So if you want to interact with me personally, talk to me about infiNity personally, and get involved in my personal community, click on the link for VaulSC. You can also go to the Discord for the TTS infiNity / Aristia. This is the much larger group, the one that's specifically for the Tabletop Simulator for infiNity and Aristia. So if you're looking to generally get involved and start your own games and get to know other people and interact with the developers of this thing, this is the Discord you want to go to. Whereas if it's me specifically in my channel and my Twitch, you want to focus on, there's my one available for that as well, which is the server VaulSC Gaming. So this is going to give me an opportunity to, talk to people about the Tabletop Simulator game and set up games with individuals. One thing I'm ultimately going to be trying to do is set this up on Twitch, where I'll be live streaming me playing infiNity, either against myself or against other people, and we'll be able to talk about setting up the table and about, the game position, and you'll be able to sort of backseat game me and complain about, rules decisions and stuff like that. So hopefully this will be a really good way of, developing a community around this. Just to get you guys up to speed, one thing that's happened to me recently in person in real life is that two of my most regular infiNity practice opponents have moved out of town. So that's Garth and Phil. Phil's the guy who plays the Aleph, Vanilla Aleph quite a lot on my YouTube channel, and Garth plays quite a lot of Vanilla Yuching. He played a bit of JSA, that sort of thing, and he won't be a regular practice opponent anymore. So this, again, is going to be a way of me sort of filling in the gaps a little bit. So that's Discord, and in a future video I'll talk about Twitch, but if you guys aren't familiar with my Twitch, obviously go to twitch.tv/VaulSC, and you can follow me and subscribe to me and do whatever you want, and that will enable you to come and watch me play infiNity sometimes, which is something I'm hopefully going to be setting up pretty soon. Alright, let's get back to Tabletop Simulator. So it's basically a sandbox. It loads you into this little environment, and I must stress that the actual controls and the interaction of it take a good half an hour to an hour to get used to, but once you've actually gotten used to everything, it's actually pretty easy. What you can even do is go back to the main menu and run through a bit of a tutorial, which is going to allow you to get to grips with like how to do everything really quickly. I can't remember where to find the tutorial, but you get the gist. Once you load this thing up for the first time, you're going to be able to play the tutorial pretty easily. So once you get to grips with the controls, I'll give you a brief rundown of it. You can start interacting with the infiNity setup. So basically, they've loaded in everything you need. You're in this little room. As you can see in the background, there are like all these infiNity posts and so forth. If you don't like them, you can actually right-click on them, go down to delete. That's pretty easy to do. Also, if you click on one of the posters, you can actually change, what's on the wall if you want to customize your little gaming room, your virtual gaming room. I just deleted all of the posters because I didn't want those distractions, because it's quite busy, sort of this environment. Anyway, what you can do is if you right-click on something, it brings up the select menu, of course. But if you left-click, and of the tool options on the left-hand side on the menu here, you're going to be using the grab tool at the top most often. You can right-click on something and hold right-click to move around. So I've just right-clicked, and this is going to allow me to zoom around. And then using your mouse wheel, you can just zoom in. And this is how we're going to be able to sort of see the battlefield. And this is one thing you can't really do too easily in real life. infiNity is just come inside the building, so I guess that's one small advantage already. But this is going to allow us to sort of cast our eyes over the tabletop and have a look around. Hey, before I forget, another really important thing about trying to make this work online is voice chat. I really don't think infiNity is the kind of game where you're going to be able to type to your opponent and say, okay, it's your turn, have you got any arrows, I'm going to declare this. Yeah, you can do it, but for those of you who are a bit shy about going in voice chat, I really would suggest getting a mic and being brave enough to chat with people anyway, because the only way I can see myself playing this against another human being is actually being on voice chat and be able to have that conversation. Otherwise, it is really unlikely to work. Anyway, back to navigation. So zooming in, zooming out, that's pretty straightforward. Holding down, like finding a point and holding down right click is going to allow you to sort of swivel around and get that view. On your keyboard, the WASD keys are allowing you to pan around. So using a combination of WASD, holding right click and moving around, and then mouse wheel, that's going to allow you to sort of come around really, really easily. So on the table, you can see that one side's red, one side's blue. What you can do up here in the top right is to change what color you're on. I'm the games master at the moment, but when you click on change color, I can, for example, click on red over here, and that's going to treat me as the red player. And one interesting thing you can do is that you've got this little red area, which we'll talk about later, which allows you to hide some of your miniatures. So if you've got a drop trooper which is going to be off table, you're going to be able to put that there, and your opponent won't see that it's going to be available to you. But we'll talk about that a little bit more later. I'm going to just come back and change my color and click on gray here to become the game master. and it's just going to show me on the little image which represents me on the side there. But let's say we've got 2 people in the server and they pick blue and red. It's going to show their names on those sides of the table, right? Alright, so coming down here, they've set out a little command console for us. Let's say I'm the red player. One thing I can do, if I find the image distracting, I can just click on delete, and it just gives me some other stuff here. So we've got a whole bunch of tokens. If you hold down left click on an item, you can actually move it around, and that's how we're going to actually move models and so forth. But the F button will allow you to flip things. So if I just hold down my cursor over this and just spam F, it's going to flip things over. So that's how we're going to show orders. You might not even need these, for example. So if I just go ahead and delete them, let's say I'm playing limited assertion, got a lieutenant token, I can drag click with left click, got my command tokens here. So when we're in game, what I'll be doing is going, okay, spending the first order, flip that, and that's how I'm going to keep track of it, right? Really easy. It's got these classified cards which you can make use of as well. A little counter here where you can count objectives. Let's say I'm on 3 objective points, and that's how you can count it. And you can go over to your opponent's side of the table and see the same kind of thing. And then there is the dice. Now I believe that it starts off with there being no dice. So yeah, I get an error straight away. If you right click on the faction dice and click search, it's going to bring up a list of colored dice you can choose from. So let's say I'm a Nomads player. I bring out this dice here, and it's going to load that dice into this little clickability thing. And then if you click this once, it brings out the dice and it rolls it for you. And that's a 17, and it actually says that in chat. VaulSC rolls a 17. Let's say you're firing an HMG in a linked team, you need 5 dice. You just click it 5 times quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It brings all the dice out, rolls them naturally for you, and then in chat it's just going to tell you what you got. 2, 8, 9, 12, and 18. So that's basically how you do it. If you're the Pano player, for example, you can repeat that process. Right click this, search, drag the blue Pano dice over, and roll it away that way. So that's how we're going to organize rolling the dice. Next up, we need some miniatures. So on this side of the table, where it says Army Builder table, they're all the faction boxes. So what you do is you click on the box that you want. So Nomads, right click that, search, and it's going to give us a list over here. And what we can then do is drag and drop. So let's say I want a bandit, left click on that, drag it into the field here. It's just going to drop down, and that's going to give us basically a little texture image like this. And most importantly, you can see the base there. And what you can do with an object is you can left click it and move it around to drag it around. Or you can hold down, once you got, left click, you hold it over, just hover it over, and then E will rotate it that way, Q will rotate it that way. So just next to your WASD on your keyboard. And that's going to allow you to change the line of sight facing quite easily for this thing. So that's really, really cool. Also, as you guys can see, if you hover over the mouse button, it tells you the stats and everything. So that's really cool. Now these models here, they don't have everything available. They're continuing to catch up with their profiles that Corvus Belli is releasing. But it's really not that hard to just proxy stuff like you do in real life, right? And this is how you basically play. You'll have a model and you bring them out into the field and you can actually just position them. One handy trick I discovered is that although the building hitbox is a little bit awkward, like trying to move next to the building can be kind of awkward, one thing you can do is just hover your mouse button right next to the back of a space and press the N button, which I believe stands for nudge, and it will just nudge him. So depending on which side of the circle you put your mouse cursor, he's just going to nudge next to the wall. I'm just going to move my camera around. So let's just say I want my bandit like just poking out around the side like that, right? So that's like giving him cover, and he's just going to be able to shoot down this angle, which once you get the hang of controls is not really that hard to do. If you have your mouse button hovered over an object in the world and you see like a 1 out of 2 thing, that means you can press 1 or 2 on your keyboard to change him to a silhouette just for line of sight checking purposes, and then 1 to go back to the model. You can even do the same thing for some buildings. So this building here has 2 out of 2. If I click on 1, it's going to just show me the interior of it, so I can more easily sort of see getting the model in there. So that's how I'm going to sort of move him up there and like nudge him up to the wall, right? And then from this side, you can sort of see him sticking out, right? So that's how you do that. You can similarly do that for the game mat as well. So if you click on the game mat and press 1, that's the natural game mat. But if you press 2, that's going to show you where the deployment zones are. So that's how you are going to easily set up the deployment zones. What about measuring stuff, I hear you ask? Well, let's say we've got our bandit and we're going to declare a short skill and move 4 inches. What you do is you hold down tab and then you just move your mouse button. So 4 inches is going to be there. So I know that that's the spot I can get to. And you kind of have to eyeball it. I think what you can do is you can probably like draw a little line if you want to. There's a way to actually put points and stuff, or vector paint like this. You could probably make that thinner. But anyway, I'm just going to get rid of the vector lines. This is if you want to draw something in the battlefield. But anyway, hold down tab, move it, say 4 inches. And then that's roughly where he goes to, so moves over there. There's probably a better way of getting it more fine-tuned so you can sort of see the end location, but I haven't really sort of investigated that because I haven't really played any games yet. So we've worked out a way of doing that. There are other things you can do with this menu. For example, I quite like the decals. So if we go decals, this is going to help us to show that nomads are playing on this side of the table, for example, and Pan-Oceania are going to be on this side of the table. And you can also, if you don't like those, you can just remove them. So, whoop, delete all the decals. There you go. What I'm going to do now is, I've just sort of shown a few of the basics. I'm just going to go to games at the top left in the menu, and I'm going to go down to the one I prepared earlier, Nomads, Pano versus Nomads setup. I'm just click on this and load it. And this is one that I spent a lot of time sort of preparing. So after you've spent all the time setting it up, you don't have to do it again, but this is how you'd customize things a bit more. So what I've done here is I've managed to get out like a whole army's worth of models. And I've done this by starting with infiNity Army first. So if I just drag this over here. So I've got a Pano army all set out in Army 6. And if you load this up, I've got the Nomad army as well. And it's all legal, 300-point army in Army 6. And when I'm playing, for example, on Twitch, I'll be able to have a command ready where you can just type like exclamation mark lists into chat and it will give you an army link, for example. So that's how I'm probably going to be doing it. And then what I've done is I've just gone over to the boxes, right? And I've just opened up the menus and I've drag and dropped them all out here. So you've got group 1 with, I don't know what we've got in group 1. It's 4 Jaguars, Moira, Interventa, Lunicod, and so on. And again, you can always swap them out for the silhouettes if you ever need to. And there's a camo marker which I'll explain in a moment. So when it's it's time to play, you basically just get in voice chat on Discord with your buddy, and you load up the server and basically roll a dice to see who's starting first or whatever, and the other person does the same over here. Notes, do the lieutenant roll off, work out what mission you're playing, get your classified card out, and then maybe it's a nomad guy wanting to deploy first. So nomad guy basically starts throwing things out into the battlefield. Obviously not like that. You can press F to flip them over, by the way. But they're pretty easy to stand up, and you can zoom in and change their facing and sort of get ready for a game and nudge them in here. So that's how you do that. To get markers out, what I've done is I've gone to these little boxes on the side of the table. So they're all labeled. You've got templates, silhouettes, terrain markers, and if you right click it, go search, it's got a lot of the things that you may need for infiNity. So let's say we want to throw down some smoke grenades. We've got a circular template there, which is going to show the middle of it. There's probably other ones where it can tell you the larger thing. You just put them out in the battlefield, or for example a teardrop. You can move that around, I guess, just to sort of measure who's going to get hit by your chain rifle. And similarly for all of the other tokens which you can find in here, what I've done is I've brought out a bunch of prone markers, because prone markers you use most of. Rather than just moving around the table, I think another easy way of doing it is just clicking on one, going Control-C just to copy, and then and paste, and you can put a prone marker next to them, and if you want to click them and delete them, you can as well. So right click, delete, or probably mouse over and then just delete really easily. Same thing goes for these wound markers. I couldn't find the unconscious markers, then I realized that if you actually hover over it and press F to flip it over, they're on the other side, so just double printed like that. So this table is a custom table that I made. One thing that really was frustrating initially was me accidentally clicking on the game mat, moving the game mat, upending all of the terrain, which was really frustrating. But if you right click on something and go down to toggle and have it on lock, that's a really big deal when you're setting up your terrain, otherwise it's going to be a hassle. Also, if you want to move several things at once, let's say I've got these order tokens, just drag select them like you would on files on your desktop, and you can move them around, or you can probably drag them and flip them all over, for example, real easy. Or if you want to move a whole bunch of your miniatures out on the table, you can. There's a sort of bit of a physics to it, so they'll actually sort of be hurled across the room and thrown around if you're not careful. So that's where they all are, but of course on this side of the table there are these terrain bags. If you right click on, say, battle mats, search, you can place a battle mat down to customize your battle mat, and then buildings, search them. You can place these buildings down, for example. I'll just put one over here, so you just drag it and then you can again move it around. It's got the different options for looking inside it. You can copy paste it, so you can make several of them, and that's how you'll customize your game board. So here's one I prepared earlier. I haven't quite finished setting it up, but it's just basically set up there, and that way you can sort of work together with somebody else to create a terrain, or do one in your own time, or get your friend to come over and play it. You can also use these pre-made ones, which I'm a bit confused by. If you come over to this control panel here and click delete, it's going to delete your entire board, I believe. No, because mine's custom, it's not going to delete. Anyway, if you hold down this and hold it down, move it, and drag it onto this little green arrow, it's going to preset the board with ones they prepared earlier. One thing I haven't figured out how to do, and if you guys know the solution to this, just please tell me in chat, but one thing I can't figure out how to do is to bring these bags back after you've used them to set up a table. If I just go to games and load up the basic Corvus Belli infiNity template, so to speak, putting us back where we started. Let's say I don't want to play on their basic setup. I'll click the trash can, bam, it's gone away, as you can see in the middle of the field there. If I click this and drag it onto the green button here, it'll set up a new table. So that's how you'll create a preset one. And if you don't want to play on the preset, you make your own one. But again, I can't figure out how to get that bag back after clicking the delete button. So eventually, if you use all of these other ones, whoa. What I've done there is it seems to be bugged. I've accidentally lifted the battle mat out of there instead of placing it. Yeah, so the battle mat itself is gone. So yeah, there's still going to be some bugs and limitations and little bits and pieces that they don't have to work with, but it seems from a cursory glance there is enough there to get going and play a bit of a game with. I'm just going to drag and drop comm center so we've got something there. Also notice that if you want to, you can create some text. So if you've got some note you want to write down on the battlefield, you can do that, and then you can delete it. That's really useful. With the gizmo tool, I believe you can change the size of an object, or just the position of it in general. With rotate, scale, yes, scale, I guess we'll make it bigger. I haven't really tested this out yet, but let's just try it. Yes, so you can stretch stuff and whatnot. So there is that. Flick, I think, is more for other games where you're playing pool or something and you want to move things around. Yeah, you can sort of knock bits and pieces around with the physics. I can't see that being useful in infiNity. As I was saying earlier, another thing you can do is you can open up stuff here, and let's say I want to put this Danavas over here. If I am counted as the red player, I can see this Danavas here, but if I come up and count as the blue player, click on blue, let's say I'm blue, that won't be shown to me on my screen. So that's how you will actually have models off the board that your opponent can't see from your army list. I don't really know how we're going to manage hidden deployment. Talking to a couple of people, I'm told that what you can do is just create a screenshot, for example, and then just say, okay, well, your model's going to be there. For example, let's say I've got a Crocman on the building. I'll just say, I'll put my mouse cursor there, I'll screenshot it, I'll put it in some communal folder, or I'll show you my opponent later. But I think really it's going to come down to there being a bit of an honor system with hidden deployment. Yep, some people may cheat, and I don't think that knowing where somebody's hidden, yeah, even if somebody did cheat with hidden deployment, it wouldn't be super impactful to a game. Yeah, it would be annoying, and it would be impactful, but I don't think it would completely ruin it. Anyway, I'm more likely to just play this with people that I know and trust anyway. So there's that. If I haven't already mentioned, they've got these screen setups here where you can actually open up Hacking Helper and the wiki. Although if I'm playing this on my PC, I'm probably just going to tab out and look at my web browser, since it's just a bit more convenient to click on things. Again, if we go to games and we go into my pre-made one that I've sort of customized, you'll also notice that I've got rid of a lot of the signboards and stuff around the room. If you want to, you can actually get rid of everything else as well, so just delete it and it's just like a black background if you prefer that. You might not really like all of the help boards as well, like if you're an experienced infiNity player, if you've got the book right next to you and you don't want to sort of see all the stuff. It might make it a bit more visual appealing to not have some of the stuff here, just because an infiNity table is so chock full of colors and graphics anyway. It just might be a bit of an eyesore to have everything else around here. Let's just see what else we can delete. We can even delete the boards at the back if we didn't want them. Yeah. Just makes it a little bit neater and tidier. Yeah. I actually quite like this. I think I might sort of keep this kind of setup actually, just because the focus of the screen is here. Anyway, in summary, this might be something to have a go at for the purposes of my YouTube content and Twitch. So those are my reasons for getting into this. If you want to play infiNity against me, probably best to start by joining my Discord and having a chat with me first. I may or may not play with random people for a while, but definitely come and say hi. If you want to organize games with people you already know, well, now you know how. You'll have to buy this from Steam, get the infiNity add-on, and probably join the official Discord for this particular simulator if you want to interact with the people who develop this and give them suggestions. One thing that would really make this better is having a community of people who are willing to like start importing the textures and start modeling some more of the buildings and giving us more terrain to work with, because at the moment the terrain bags are a bit limited. They've got some buildings, battle mats, building parts, but you can imagine with this being all digital and online, it'd be so easy to make really interesting customized game mats of your own, and to retexture a lot of the buildings and come up with some really beautiful stuff that could be in there. I don't know how far anybody's getting with creating like 3D models for the miniatures rather than just the two-dimensional renders. I don't mind the 2Ds. I think they look fine. I mean, they're just pictures from the catalog, but you know, seeing some 3D ones would be even better. So I think that'd be really cool. But yeah, so join my Discord, keep checking out my YouTube channel hopefully, and follow me on Twitch, because hopefully I'm going to be streaming some games of this on Twitch where you'll be able to just watch the stream, commentate on what's going on, and generally be part of our little community here. So if this starts picking up, I might spend a lot more time on it. Thanks for checking it out, guys. Hopefully see more of you soon.